Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Sweatable podcast. My name is Brooks Herbis, and I'm an online fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach who's here to help you simplify and make sense out of the all too confusing fitness and nutrition industry. Let's be real, there's a lot of conflicting information online, and it can be hard to know what's legit and who to trust. In every episode, I'll be sharing the science and psychology behind health, fitness, and long-lasting behavior change. But I'll also be sharing real-life practical application because all of the best info in the world only matters if you can actually apply it to your real life. So grab a coffee, water, glass of wine, or lace up your walking shoes, and let's dive in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Sweat Symbol podcast, and I am extra excited for today's episode because it's going to be very hands-on, very interactive, almost a little behind-the-scenes sneak peek of what it looks like to work with me in one-on-one online coaching, but a lot more than just like active listening than you're used to. So if you are not in a place where you can, really like sit and dive into this episode, maybe press pause and come back to it. Can you do this while you're on a walk or actually you can't do this when you're driving, but can you do it when you're on a walk or, yes, absolutely. But if you're just kind of have this as like background noise and you're not fully focused, I really recommend pressing pause and then coming back to it because this is an episode that I really want you getting the most of. And before we even begin this episode, head to the show notes because there is a free resource that you're going to need in order to get the most out of this episode. It is a free goal setting worksheet. So head to the show notes, download that goal setting worksheet, and then come back to me and we will dive in. You're probably like, okay, why do I need to be super focused? Why do I have this like extra resource? What's going on? And what's happening is that I often call September the second new year when it comes to health and fitness. Summer is over. If you're a parent, your kids are going back to school, you likely have this like newfound motivation for your health and fitness goals. Let's just be real. Over the summer, we're not really focused on that. We're focusing on, social events and being outside, especially if we live somewhere where the weather isn't great, and our health and fitness goals kind of naturally take a back seat. But as the weather's changing, as you have maybe more time if your kids have gone back to school, as maybe you realize you have a little bit of summer fluff, you might be feeling this extra bit of motivation and this extra want to really prioritize your health and fitness goals again. And this is a good thing. I know some coaches are like, well, we shouldn't wait until like X, Y, and Z in order to like start our fitness goals. And well, I agree with that and that there's never a perfect time to start. There is something that we call temporal landmarks. What we know is that big landmarks of time, such as the changing in seasons or a big life change like starting a new job, having kids, that can actually be a really great time to make changes to your habits and to really make progress towards your goals. So you are feeling a little bit of extra motivation right now, and I want you to take advantage of it. And I want to make sure you actually take advantage of it because what you're probably really familiar with is having these new goals, setting these new goals, and then you'll never actually follow through. And I bet a few of you are nodding along right now like, yep, that checks out. That's me. It's September and I haven't actually made any progress towards my New Year resolution. You're not alone. That is very, very common. Many people are at a spot where they're not where they thought they would be at this point in the year. Or, you haven't really made much progress towards your health and fitness goal. That's okay. I don't want you to feel guilty about that. I don't want you to feel bad about that. But I do want to make sure that that doesn't happen. There are still 4 months left in the rest of the year. And with these 4 months, there's still a lot that we can do to make sure that you do see some progress towards your health and fitness goals. So don't throw the towel out on this year yet. There is a lot of progress to be made. And over the course of this podcast, I'm going to help you really get to that point of feeling like you know what to do moving forward. So we are going to walk through a goal setting exercise called mental contrasting. And like I said, bonus, today's podcast episode comes with a downloadable worksheet. So head to the show notes, download the worksheet so you can fill it out as we go throughout the episode. I'm physically going to be asking you some of these prompts, and I want you to take the time to reflect and fill this out. So make sure you have that worksheet downloaded, ready to go before we dive in. Now, what the heck is mental contrasting? Why do we care about it? Mental contrasting is a really helpful goal setting strategy because not only are we setting goals, but I'm also going to ask you to identify the hurdles that might prevent you from reaching those goals, because that's where you're typically falling short, right? You are probably so good at setting goals, but we're not always so great at thinking about what might go wrong. And that is such a crucial part, because what if you already had a plan in place for when life felt hard? Because we all know life is not perfect, and because we've probably been on this health and fitness journey for a bit of time now, we know that even when we have the most perfect plan, oftentimes life happens and we're not able to follow through. And typically when we feel like we can't perfectly execute our plan, we tend to just throw in the towel and say that we'll start over when we can be perfect again. But as you might have realized, that's not actually getting you any closer to your goals. And if all you're doing is creating these plans and never following through because something keeps getting in the way, you're going to remain stuck. So what if those hurdles felt so much easier to navigate because you already knew how to navigate them? As you can see, that is so helpful when it comes to goal setting. And it's something I'm always having my one-on-one coaching clients think about. Not just what's going to happen when life is perfect, but what are the hurdles that might come up when you're setting this goal, and how can we think about those in advance? Because life is not perfect, fat loss is hard, and it's really important to think about those things before they even happen. So grab your worksheet and let's start working through this. So step 1, I want you to think about your biggest health and fitness goal right now. You might have a lot of overarching goals that you're working towards, but for the sake of this podcast and this worksheet, it's important to dial in on just one. Otherwise, it can get pretty overwhelming. So pick one. Now, this can be something bigger like fat loss in general, like I want to lose fat, or it might be something more granular like I want to eat less takeout. Take some time to think about what the most important goal is, what the most actionable thing is that you want to start working on. Okay, got it. And I'm not going to give a lot of long, awkward pauses during this episode because that would just be uncomfortable to listen and sit in silence. So if you need more time, press that pause button real quick. Think about that number one goal and then press restart when you've got it working written down in your worksheet. All right, now that we have our number one goal, then I want you to think about all of the good things that are going to come from achieving that goal. So every single specific detail, I don't care how small it is. I don't care like how really minute it seems. I want you to write down all the good things that are going to come from reaching that goal. So if we go back to that eating less takeout example, some things you might write down could be saving money, your cholesterol improves, maybe you fall in love with cooking again, you feel healthier, you lose weight, you get the idea. Like write down every little good thing that could come from reaching this goal. Again, eating less takeout, that could be, I already said lose weight in general, so we already got that covered. But really just don't overthink it and think everything good that might come to your life once you reach this goal. Now, step 3, this is the most important part, and this is the part that we are typically skipping. This is the part that we don't want to think about because we only want to think about how good it feels to like reach our goals and stay the course and keep taking action, but we know that that's just not the case. So I want you to imagine all of the obstacles that you might face when you're going after this goal. So for example, again, we're going back to that eat less takeout. Busy weeks at work, when you're too tired to cook. That could be one obstacle that you have. Coming home at the end of the day and just having no motivation, no energy to cook your meal. Another could be not having the motivation to get to the grocery store after a weekend of travel. So, that could cause you to eat more takeout because you're not having any fresh food in your fridge. Other obstacles could be your family is really picky eaters and it's hard to find recipes they all like. Maybe it's friends who aren't super supportive when you say that you want to cook at home instead of go out to eat with them like you typically do. Like, write down all those hurdles. And maybe these are things that you've already experienced. Maybe you've been working on this goal for a while, so you already know what those hurdles are. That's great. Don't have these feelings of guilt as you're writing these down. Feel confident because now you're identifying it. You have this awareness as to what might go wrong. Like, that's putting you at an actually really strong advantage. So write all of those down, the big, the small, the uncomfortable ones. Write everything down that might be a hurdle. Then once you got that all in the worksheet, I want you to think of a few ways that you can address these and overcome them. So maybe it's a conversation you could have with your friend, like, hey, I'm really working on my health and fitness goals. So I'm actually going to eat, before we grab drinks, but I'm really looking forward to grabbing drinks. Could you hold me accountable and help me reach my goal? Maybe it's your meal prepping on Sundays or prepping a protein for those really busy days at work that you come home feeling really exhausted. Maybe it's trying like takeout copycat recipes that you found on Pinterest that you think your family will like just as much. Like, really think about all the ways that you can address these hurdles so that they're no longer issues. And I want you to get really specific here because this is the most important part. So take some time doing this. Don't just, half-ass this. Like, I want you to get serious about this because this is what's really going to be the difference between you once again maybe not following through on your goals and on the flip side allowing these to no longer be hurdles. So once you've done that, congrats, you have completed the exercise, and I hope that you're now seeing how beneficial it is to not just be setting these goals, but also to be anticipating some of these hurdles and roadblocks, and also having solutions for when these do pop up. That is going to make this feel a lot easier to navigate moving forward. Now, I know this was kind of a different type of episode than I typically do. So if you guys liked this, if you liked having the worksheet that accompanied it, please let me know. Also, if you know a friend who would benefit from working through this exercise, please consider sending them this podcast. That is the number one way that my podcast grows, is when you guys share it on your social media or share it with a friend who you think would like it, and they get a free worksheet with it too. So let me know your feedback. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear the type of goals that you guys are setting before the end of the year, so never hesitate to shoot me a DM. But in general, thank you guys so much for being here. I so appreciate it, and I will talk to you next week.